Fate has dealt you a winning hand that gave you a finger to click this link. Welcome to the Tao of K, perspectives on life and social commentary from a leader of those that do not follow.
Hey, welcome to episode 2 of the Tao of K. I'm your host, Carl Heiler, and this episode is actually going to be somewhat of a commentary on a documentary that I recently watched. Now, as you will learn as time goes by, documentaries play a major part in the Tao of K. Like, it is definitely one of my favorite ways to get information, and I would say is one of my favorite forms of entertainment as well. I got into documentaries as a kid. I think the first documentary type TV that I got into they used to have this thing called Mutual of Omaha, the wildlife, where they'll go out into like the Serengeti and follow like animals around and just watching like lions chase down stuff and eat it. And I love that. Then you had the Jacques Cousteau, the water joints, and then you had the History Channel and the war joints, and I just always been a fan of documentary and investigative media. So there is a documentary called MLKFBI, right? I watched it last night. Got it off of iTunes. Shout out to iTunes because that was a nice joint. It was very well put together, and I gotta say, I'm 47 years old, so I've been hearing the Martin Luther King story all my life. There wasn't really any new information, but I did come to a realization last night that I really hadn't fully wrapped my mind around until then, and that is when King started that civil rights movement in the 50s. When I last night I considered what the mission statement really was. Like in 1950 something, we're not even 100 years outside of slavery, right? King was I think he was like in his early 30s, and he grew up in, I think, Georgia, Alabama, somewhere in the South. So he grew up with the crackers of crackers, you know what I'm saying? And for him and his counterparts, his associates, his cohorts, for them to have a mission statement that was basically to appeal to white people, right? And mind you, their immediate experience with whites is with the crackers of the crackers. You know what I'm saying? The devilest of the devils. Their mission statement was to appeal to those people, to get them to see the humanity in black people, to see black people as adults, as they were, the ask was equality, So I guess for them asking white people for equality back then, though, it reminds me of a line from Sun Tzu in The Art of War, when he was saying, like, if you want to hit a target that's 50 feet away, you got to aim for something 100 feet away so we could hit the 50 hard. You know what I'm saying? So they was really just asking crackers to, like, let a nigga live. You know what I'm saying? But may as well shoot for equality while you at it. You know what I'm saying? So in shooting for equality, we ended up with what we got. You know what I'm saying? And what we got, keeping it a buck, shit is kind of, still fucked up out here. These crackers do be tripping. I'm not going to give them a pass. But I do got to acknowledge, man, like, these crackers are a lot less cracker than they could be. And they are a lot less cracker than they have been. You know what I'm saying? So, I know the woke can't admit that, and they won't. It's anti-woke to say that. But most of the millennial woke and the social media woke, people like that, in my opinion, they're not really woke. They just sleep loud. They just make a lot of noise and they say a lot of shit. But at the end of the day, an application, so much of what they're into is just not even realistic. But that's another topic. But yeah, so back then I was like, for them dudes, for that to be the mission statement, for that to be what they were shooting for, that was ambitious. And when I say ambition is ambitious is for lack of a better word, ambitious pales into comparison to what it really was. I was talking to my man today, my man Jay Martin, and I was like, for what for their mission statement in 1950s, right? To try to quantify that and put that in words in today's perspective. I told my man that would be like today if I called you on March 29th, 2021 and said, yo, I got an idea for a new flying car company. We're going to make cars that fly, right? In the next 10 years. Not only are we going to make cars that fly, we're also going to convince the entire United States and possibly the world, but we'll start with the United States. We're going to convince the entire United States to also build us the necessary infrastructure for our flying cars to exist, right? And we're going to trust that people are going to be able to learn how to maneuver these flying cars without crashing and killing everybody. That's our goal, and we're going to have this done in about the next 10 years. People will look at me and be like, man, you out your motherfucking mind. You know what I'm saying? But that was what they was up against in the 50s, trying to get crackers, whiteys, devils, OFAs, you know what I'm saying? Trying to get the United States of America, people that saw fit to go to another man's country, land, continent, and enslave human beings and put them in the hull of a ship and drive them and sail them all the way across the world and treat them like animals for hundreds of years. And then after 300 years of that, deciding to let them go free, you know what I'm saying? But then Reconstruction and Jim Crow, their goal, their mission statement was to convince these people, right, to be less racist. Be less racist to the extent of just letting niggas live. Get some jobs, drink some water out some water fountains, you know what I'm saying? Sit anywhere they wanted to on a bus, to not have to be conversing with a white child, as a boy or a girl. Like, that was a lot to ask for. That was mission impossible, So shout out to them, man. Shout out to them. I grew up militant, you know what I mean? I never really gave Martin Luther King and civil rights dudes their due respect, And last night it just hit me. I was like, what the fuck was I thinking about? Like, who the fuck am I to front on these dudes? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this was some major shit that they was doing. You know what I mean? But so this MLKFBI documentary, though, of all the things that we know, the connection with MLK and the FBI, and this documentary is that, aside from just being good old fashioned racist organization that wanted to maintain the status quo and keep black people in their place, blah 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 blah. The FBI naturally was not with the civil rights movement, right? And the big threat back then was communism. So in the name of anti-communism, Americans, white Americans, pretty much was able to roll with anything. The ironic thing about that anti-communism thing is communism is a financial theory. It's an economic theory. It's an economic position. It's not a military position. It's not a religious position. It's just a difference in the way an economy should run, right? And because of that difference in the way an economy should run, they went to whole wars. A whole lot of people died. Like, human beings were eliminated because of that. That's crazy. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, the anti-communism thing, that was the ultimate justification for, like, communism just was not acceptable in America by white Americans. Racism was cool. That was all right. Racism was all right. Chauvinism was all right. But communism, no. So Martin Luther King attracted communists, communist sympathizers. Communists sympathize with Black Americans. Eldridge Cleaver had a line in Soul on Ice, I'm paraphrasing, where he felt like the communists, the left, was trying to put a battery in the back of Black people to initiate subversive revolutionary acts against the United States that would lead to the slaughter of Black people, but also just to the occupying of the American power structure. So basically, we would distract them, while we tried our revolution that they would quell and kill all of us. And, somehow communism would rise in the dust that settled after that, right? So communists were cozying up to Black nationalists. Not Black nationalists. King wasn't a Black nationalist, I'm sorry. Communists was what they were cozying up to Black nationalists. They were cozying up to Black people seeking civil rights. They were cozying up to all the Black leaders of the time. And when you need a friend is a friend. And King needed some friends, so the communist dude, he was getting at King, and King was like, communist dude might have been getting him a little money. You know what I'm saying? Paying for some tickets, some bus tickets, some plane tickets. You know what I'm saying? Helping them move around. Because the communist was raising money, which is interesting for communism to be a economic position that doesn't really value individual wealth and money, capital. Communists, the people at the top of those communist parties, they had money. They had access to funds. They was able to fund some shit. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, so King was getting a little money, a little backing from the communists and shit. And so the FBI, they ran down on him. And, they asked him, like, yo, you fucking with these communists? And King was like, nah, man, I'm American. I don't fuck with no communists. I'm USA. You know what I'm saying? And King didn't know that they was on his phones. They had wiretaps going. And they found out that King was talking to this dude. No, actually, they was on the communist dude. They had the communist dude's phone tap. And they found out, they heard King talking to him, and they was like, nah, and King was fucking with him. Like, he was doing a little bit more, they was cool. They was way cooler than King let on, by the standards of some of these recent, like, if you remember the people that got convicted in Trump's situation, and when Martha Stewart went to the feds, Lil' Kim, when she went to the feds, Marion Jones, the track star, they went to federal prison just for lying to the FBI, which is weird. I should be able to lie to whoever I want to lie to. You shouldn't be able to lock me up for lying. You know what I'm saying? Fuck you. You know what I'm saying? I don't, you could lock me up for doing a crime, catch me doing a crime, but I should be able to lie to anybody. But anyway, you can't lie to the FBI. That's a crime. You will go to federal prison for lying to the FBI. Technically speaking, they could have just gave King a Fed case back then, locked him up, neutralized him. Wow, imagine if that would have happened. That case only carries like a year and a day, But I think King would have came home and got it popping because he was too shaken at the time. A year wasn't really gonna stop nothing. But yeah, so when they heard King on that wiretap, that authorized the tapping of Martin Luther King's phones and bugging devices, electronic surveillance on King and his associates, right? And through all of that, the key nugget, the main thing that they got out of that was King and his homies was fucking. They was doing a whole lot of fucking. You know what I'm saying? Them niggas was having orgies and the whole shit. You know what I'm saying? And think about it. These dudes is in their 20s at the time, 20s, 30s, because King got killed at 39. he was like a good 10 years into his 10, 11, 12 years into that struggle, 15 even. So these dudes was in their 20s, early 30s, you know what I'm saying? And they was out, they was preaching and they was marching and they was doing their thing, you know what I'm saying? And they was getting chose. You know what I'm saying? If you look at the hierarchy of the community back then, right? Like right now in our community, rappers are like the ultimate niggas, and rappers have been on the top of the food chain in the black community now for, I would say, about a good 25 years. Anybody that's like around 30, they literally grew up in an era where like the rapper was the ultimate nigga. You know what I'm saying? Like when I was a kid, it was there was a lot of people were sharing the spotlight. You had actors, you had the Billy D. Williams type dudes. You know what I'm saying? You had the musicians, the Rick Jameses and actors and comedians like Eddie Murphy, and then of course the heavyweight champ. The champ was the man. You know what I'm saying? Whoever was the heavyweight champ, he was, and some of the middleweights and the lightweights, the Sugar Rays, and you know what I mean? You had a lot of dudes that was kind of popping, the NFL stars, you know what I'm saying? But now it's like for the last 25 years, it's like the rappers just like all these other dudes want to be like the rappers. You know what I'm saying? Like now, if a dude happens to get some sports fame, he want to hang out with rappers. You know what I'm saying? If a dude happen to get some movie fame, he want to hang out with rappers. You know what I mean? So the rappers is like even gangsters. Like back then the gangster was official. Like if you was a gangster, you was an official dude. You know what I'm saying? Now even the gangsters want to hang out with the rappers. You see what happened with them niggas, them niggas that was fucking with 6ix9ine, them nut ass niggas. You know what I'm saying? Like them niggas was real live gangsters, and they just want to hang out with a rapper. Rap their ass in the motherfucking feds. But yeah. So, but back then there were no rappers, right? There were no black dudes in NFL yet. So, you know what I mean? So the popping dudes in the black community back then in the civil rights era was the gangsters, the players, and the preachers. Like being a preacher, being a popping preacher, that was equivalent of being a player. You know what I'm saying? Like, the clubs wasn't really that popping. You know what I'm saying? So, the church was popping. You know what I'm saying? So, to be Martin Luther King and to be running with Martin Luther King back then, be a 25-year-old, son of a hell of a preacher, you know what I'm saying? Morehouse, all that, like you was shaking, you know what I'm saying? So they had all facets of men have a group of women that are into them, like, and there was a group of women that was into them dudes, man, that was into preaching, civil rights and, to preaching Southern Baptist ass niggas, man. Like, them dudes was getting a lot of run, you know what I'm saying? But I really want to know who those women were, though, man. Like, who were those women on those orgy tapes with King and them, man? Because, they was church women. When I would have been growing up, they would have been the grandmothers, they would have been the Sunday hats, but like, but at that time in their 20s, you know what I'm saying? They could look at today's youth and be like, oh, these young girls, the way they dress and, the Instagram, and they could talk all the shit they got to talk about WAP and but y'all was fucking Martin Luther King and them. You know what I'm saying? Like y'all was in the hotel room getting tossed up by the preachers. You know what I mean? And y'all didn't know the FBI had y'all on tape. And y'all was getting it in. Like the FBI, them white dudes at FBI and Hoover, he was gay, you know what I'm saying? So he was just appalled of a man touching a woman anyway. But even the other white dudes, they was like, damn, these dudes is in there getting it in. Like, that was a life that they dreamed of. Orgies? Come on, man. I ain't never had an orgy. I ain't never been into an orgy before. You know what I'm saying? You a whole different type of freak if you and your man's just having orgies. You know what I'm saying? And then preaching at the same time. That's ill. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to King and them, man. But they was players. You know what I'm saying? They was the equivalent of players back then. You know? And so they got these tapes, right? Of King and his cohorts tossing it up. You know what I'm saying? Living like rock stars. You know what I'm saying? And they didn't have video though. They just had audio. So what they did to subversively get into Martin Luther King's head is they sent him a copy of the tapes along with a letter that was written by what is clearly a cracker that has no understanding of the black community, right? Had the wrong slang. The FBI was not that smart. They're not that smart, but they were really not that smart back then. They had a regular white guy from the Midwest somewhere write a letter to Martin Luther King as if he was one of King's followers, and he just felt so betrayed that here you are, you this preacher, you this civil rights leader, you are our moral authority, and I believe in you so much, me and my family, my wife and my kids, we follow you, and now I gotta find out that you and Andrew Young and Abernathy and all them other niggas, man, y'all niggas is having motherfucking orgies and shit, man. You know what I'm saying? And because you get so much pussy, I don't respect you no more. Now, now they're gonna write a letter like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, no black man is gonna be like, man, he get too much pussy. Nah, you know what I'm saying? So, but that was the letter they wrote to King, right? And in closing of the letter, they told King that you have failed us so much that the only right thing for you to do after that is to commit suicide. You should kill yourself, Martin Luther King. And you got 34 days to do it. And if you don't do it in 34 days, I'm going to expose you to all of your people, right? And King was clearly visually, because they had the tapes, they still on his line. They hear him like he was stressed out behind this, because he was like, if this comes out, if this goes public, I'm done. Like, my people will abandon me. Like, King really thought that the black community would, the world would disband him, would just forget about him, forget that he existed if he was exposed for the freak that he was. You know what I'm saying? Which is crazy. This whole piousness and righteousness and this prudeness that we have attached to like political figures, you know what I'm saying? But I get it. But let me touch on that though. There is a nugget of reality to that amongst men of respect, especially a certain level of respect, right? I never really had respect for like those pussy on the brain dudes, like dudes that's always chasing after women. I always got to deal with them kind of like at a distance, depending on the extent, because like you can't be that, that people like that could end up in precarious situations. They could be risky, because when you're loose and you have power, you could end up compromising yourself. That's why they really don't like political figures, generals and stuff like that to really be doing too much, because like now you're letting other people know that, we could send a chick at him and that's a wrap for him, But in our everyday life, we don't live at those stakes. So a lot of people, most men grow up regular, they don't reach that point where they're a figurehead or someone that of that level of responsibility. They're not really groomed for that, right? So you grow up as a regular guy all through your puberty and your adolescence and your early adulthood, and then by maybe at 25, 30, 40 years old, you're a general, and now you're expected to keep military secrets, or you're the head of a political party, or you're expected to keep secrets. You don't have that training, you don't have that discipline to understand that, the women that I could, at the time when I could just go out and have fun, shake it, get it shaking. Me and my homies have an orgy or something like that. Like those days are really not. Those days are over. The stakes are too high for that right now. You know what I'm saying? And when you really think about it, like what them dudes is willing to risk for an orgy, they could have subverted the whole civil rights movement just by sending some hoes in there. You know what I'm saying? They could have sent some real, and if they'd got some real slick hoes, some real slick Chicago hoes, some real slick New York hoes, some hoes that really been pimped on and really, you know what I'm saying? Really was some 10 toes down, and they would have got into some real, greedy people head. They could have shut that whole civil rights movement down just by sending the right chicks at them. So, we dodged a bullet with that, But anyway, so that, that's what happened, So, so King was like, man, if this comes out, it's over for me, And little by little, the FBI started, letting that information get out there. And King defied the odds. It seemed like the reality is the people that got the tapes, heard about the tapes, didn't really talk about it. Why they didn't go to the press with it, I don't know. I don't know. But it was about to go that way. And then King, he committed the ultimate sin in the eyes of the American Empire when he started speaking out against the Vietnam War and started making, and really, the conversation became more than just about civil rights. He started speaking just to poor people rights. And if, same thing that my man was doing, Fred Hampton, like if he was able to get the poor whites to realize that they were just a poor white above a black person, and that the actual mainstream American economy was set up the way that it is, the way that it was, which led to where it is now, which is why the poor whites are still mad, But it's just something about the poor whites, man. Like the poor whites got that white. At the end of the day, like poor whites have always been able to look at themselves and be like, at least we ain't niggas. You know what I'm saying? And, I could ride this poor white thing out and maybe it'll turn around. You know what I'm saying? But the day that poor white people and poor black people and just working class people come together, I don't even know what happened. I don't even think the working class can handle that type of success. I don't think the working class can handle that. But anyway, so eventually, as they were sending out the tapes, they even sent the tapes to Coretta, Martin Luther King's wife, who, by the way, looking at that documentary again last night, Coretta was a John. Coretta was Johnny to the motherfucker, man. Like, Coretta was a John. Coretta was a bad John. Martin Luther King had him one. Yo, I was looking at Coretta last night. Coretta always had the right hair, always had the right outfit, dresses, body banging. You know what? I couldn't help but thinking, yo, if they would have had Instagram back then, Coretta Scott King Instagram would have been popping. Like, Coretta been talking about her hats and her dress, and yeah, Coretta would have did a busting challenge too. She would have. She in Atlanta. Come on, Coretta from Atlanta. She'd have did a busting challenge, but one of them challenges. You know what I'm saying? You ever seen the preacher, the preacher and his wife, the old preacher with the roller skate? They be doing TikToks. Yeah, Coretta been doing. Imagine Coretta and Martin doing TikToks and shit. You know what I'm saying? But nah, Coretta was bad though. Yeah, but they sent those tapes to Coretta, and Coretta just held it down, cause Coretta knew what she was dealing with. She knew her man was a freak. She knew she was, but that's what it was back then. The good girls would marry a dude, and the freak girls would stay out. You know what I'm saying? And the good girls be like, I ain't doing all that. Nah. But then again, I don't know. I mean, look, I ain't gonna go any further with that. I'm gonna leave that alone. You know what I'm saying? But I hold Coretta in the highest of esteem. But yeah, Coretta was a bad John though. She was bad. But but one thing that something else hit me when I was watching that documentary, because like I said, I grew up young black militant, you know, very low appreciation for white culture, hated white religion, you know, so every time I see like footage from back then, and I see, you know, the black people all up in the church and Jesus and I hate that. Like it literally makes my skin crawl. You know, like it just makes my skin crawl. I remember when I was a kid, we were in Grenada, and we went to visit family, and I have some cousins that are their father's white. Right, and we're walking with, I guess you'd call him my uncle, my white uncle. And this woman walked out, this old woman. She saw this, you know, this is in the 70s. She saw this tall white man and with, you know, long hair and a beard walking in Grenada. And she came out and she thought it was Jesus. She's like, oh, Jesus, you've come for me. I'm like, I just remember being so mad at that woman for thinking, this nigga ain't Jesus. Bitch ass nigga, like, come on, man, this cracker ain't Jesus. You know what I'm saying? But like, so yeah, so I always get like a certain level of uneasiness when I see black people just, you know, doing that whole shuck and jive Christian thing, right? But it hit me last night as I was watching King and them and all those people back then do that shuck and drive Christian thing all up in the church and marching and shit. I was like, it wouldn't have worked any other way. You know what I'm saying? Like, white people would not have had a scintilla of the empathy that it took for them to cross that bridge and, you know, pass that civil rights legislation and start forth the chain of events that have led us to where we are today in America. Which, you know what I'm saying, I understand the woke says, you know, America's the worst place for black men and, you know, and Black Lives Matter and, you know what I'm saying, shit is fucked up out here for a brother. I get it. I ain't, you know, I'm not giving white people a pass and I'm not giving them no extra points. You know what I'm saying? But as a rational thinking human being, black man, I cannot not acknowledge that, you know, come a long way. We've come a long way, man. And I gotta give crackers some credit for that. You know what I'm saying? Like, crackers are a lot less crackery in 2021 than they were in 1965. And that's not that long ago. I know niggas that was born in 1965. I was born in 1973. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. I can't act like you know, I can't act like crackers ain't do nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I gotta give them a little bit of credit. I gotta give them some credit. I gotta give them some credit, man. I gotta keep it a buck. I gotta give them some credit. But so I'm looking at these Southern Baptist niggas and shit, right? And I was like, Whitey conned our ancestors into Christianity, right? Like, to be a conquered person, a conquered people, a kidnapped people, right? To be put in the hull of a ship, taken from your home, sailed across oceans, and then to land amongst these people that had to, the best you could call them was devils, right? And for them to treat you like an animal, knowing that you are a human being, right? Knowing that you come from a place where this is not life. Knowing that you had a culture and a language and diet and traditions, knowing that you existed in this space. And then for these people to tell you, on top of all that, we have a God that you need to start worshiping. And for you to believe that, you know what? I'm gonna start worshiping these people, God. Because whoever was my God over there, this nigga dropped the ball. Like he done got us in a real fucked up situation. So whoever we been praising, that shit ain't work out. You know what I'm saying? Whoever these motherfuckers is praising, they seem to be getting something out of praising this motherfucker. This Jesus shit that they talking about, like this shit is working out for them. You know what I'm saying? Like they doing shit that we ain't never seen before. They got motherfucking sticks that shoot out motherfucking fire and it's killing people. You know what I'm saying? Jesus got it. And if Jesus gave him that shit, then we need to start fucking with Jesus too. I get it. Right? I get it. So Whitey conned our ancestors into Christianity. And we took to it like a fish to water. Our ancestors did. Right? I mean, not just here in America. You go to Africa now, it's a bunch of Christians in Africa. You know what I'm saying? All over the West Indies. You know, even the Rastafarians, like everybody believe in like Jesus and all this bullshit that these crackers made up. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, but they conned our ancestors into this Christianity. Christianity is a con. It's a big con job. Religion is a con job within itself. But in my opinion, Christianity is the con of all cons, though. Right? They conned our ancestors into their Christianity. But remember who you're talking about. When you're talking about our ancestors and our forefathers. And especially those ones that were in that civil rights movement. They was the preachers. And the path to a preacher back then, you had to come into, you had to go through, you had to learn that game. You had to learn that ism. The pimps and the preachers was hand in hand. The players and the preachers was hand in hand. Because there were only a few games there were only a few routes for a black man back in early America. A black man that wanted to look good, you know what I'm saying? That wanted to dress and rest, you know, wanted to keep a manicure, you know, wanted to know what it feel like to thumb through some money, to be a player, to get his. There were only a few routes, you know? Dope wasn't even in the game yet. Wasn't no opportunities for black men in heroin and cocaine yet. Marijuana, like that underground economy wasn't even there yet. In order to be a black man that wasn't a Pullman's porter or pushing a broom or waiting on white people, you had to be a player. And there was only a few games. You could pimp out your sisters and your mothers and your daughters, or you could preach. But either one, you had to have a mouthpiece. And you had to have game. You had to have vision. You had to be an alchemist. You had to be able to turn iron into gold. You had to be able to spin circles around a motherfucker's head, man, make them dizzy. So they could feel what you were saying. Who could do that other than preachers? They got conned. But then they realized while they were getting conned how good the con was. They're like, oh, wait a minute. These crackers done conned my whole bloodline into believing this bullshit. I know it's bullshit, but if my whole bloodline believed it, they're not going to be the only ones benefiting off of this Christian con. You know, we about to get in on this too. And they got in on it. The preachers got in on it. So that's who we talking about. Martin Luther King's father and them. That's who raising this boy, man. So, those masters of con, masters of the game tight, boss players, Spitted immaculate game with swift wisdom. Used to come out Martin Luther King mouth. With that southern drawl and that melodic flow. Hypnotize a bitch. Them same dudes understood the con. So they used that same Christianity con to convince a significant amount of white people to be less racist. Just less racist. Less racist enough to let a nigga ride a bus. Less racist enough to let a black man get a job. Less racist enough to let a black man, woman vote. Imagine that. Imagine the crackers that they was talking to, that they got to be like, you know what? Yeah, we've been fucking you niggas over for a long time, man. Long time. We gonna ease up off you niggas a little bit. Just a little bit. But with that same, but now, if it wasn't for that Christianity, if those crackers couldn't look at black people and be like, they're good Christians, they believe in Jesus, and Jesus would, kind of want us to do this shit too. You know what I'm saying? I know at that time, that's when the white men, especially the white, the Christian con men, I know that's when they realized the con went too far. Like, wait a minute. When they realized that they didn't con their own, the con that they put down on us, that benefited them for hundreds of years, they never ever thought that it would get flipped on them. The civil rights movement, Martin Luther King and them, the players of the players, they flipped the script. They conned a significant amount of white people to be less racist. Because they came at them with the Bible, with the Negro spirituals, with the hymns, with the, we love Jesus just like y'all do. You know what I'm saying? We was good to you, Tom. You know what I'm saying? We raised your babies. You know what I'm saying? Like, never in the history of the planet Earth prior to that did people convince an oppressor to be less oppressive. Every other oppressor prior to that had to be killed for them to ease up off you. The French Revolution, they literally had to go into the castles and kill all the kings, the queens, the noblemen. They had to kill them all. They had to kill them. The Russians, they had to kill the czars. They killed Henry VIII, which was a Russian dude. They killed his whole family, the kids and everybody. They had to kill them. But we was able to our ancestors was able to con them. And I have to acknowledge that because of that Christianity con that they put down so cold, I could be an atheist now. Like, I didn't have to be down with the con. Like, they gave me the freedom to be like, I don't believe that bullshit. Like, I couldn't have said that back then. I mean, I could have said it, but imagine if Martin Luther King was a nigga like me. It was like, man, this bullshit ass religion, bullshit ass Jesus shit. They would have killed him. Or nobody would have listened to him. He wouldn't have been able to put the game down. He knew what he had to do. That was cold game, man. That's the only thing I could say about it, man. That was cold game. Shout out to MLK, man. Every MLK day, every time you ride down MLK Boulevard, you got to tip your hat, man. You got to tip your hat to a boss player, man, because that man was a boss player. They put a hell of they put a hell of a game down. They put a hell of a game down on these. All right, man. So that's my take on FBI. What's it called? MLKFBI. That was a documentary. Check that out. And until I see you again, this has been a Dive K. Remember, fate has dealt you a winning hand. And you're always going to be able to use that winning hand to click this link. Till we meet again.